Partly cloudy with a low around 39, and Wednesday cloudy with a high around 54. Cafe Latte is a hotspot for American eats and house-made desserts in a cafeteria-style setup, plus a pizza and wine bar. Cafe Latte believes ingredients matter, so that's why they never use artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. Dine in at the restaurant off Victoria and Grand at St. Paul, or place a takeout order at cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and in Chicago at nights, WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Tuesday. This is an insane news day. This is insane. FYI, coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour, we've got Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer going to join us for his usual Tuesday visit, and then Tom Gum from Rotary International. He's going to be joining us as well. They've got, of course, their big event coming into Minneapolis, St. Paul on the 2029, their annual convention. So we'll talk to him about that coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. Patrick, how are we today?
It's a little bit of a tough news day. Of course, I'm sure we'll talk about some things later on, but otherwise, it's doing all right.
Well, there's a lot going on today. Holy God. I'm just checking Mayorkas on Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, wherever that is. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene went all racist. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen because basically they have two votes to work with as the Republican majority. And I've already think McClintock and Buck have both already said, no, we're not going to vote for it. So I think this is over. I think this is just a lot of people screaming into the wind at this point. And yeah, it does. The thing which is hilarious is you can already see the cab coming down the street with Republicans insisting, if the Democrats were ever to, find, you discovered that, a Republican cabinet member is an actual cannibal eating other human beings, they're going to be like, how dare you turn this process political when we did it? It was because we really wanted to. Yeah, that sort of thing. You can already see that coming. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. But let's start with the joyous and beautiful. Well, I got to start off with this one story. I've already posted this today on the social media. I saw this and it just made me laugh. So apparently in one of the briefings by Jack Smith in his case against Trump, he basically has pointed out, now you can't really talk about things, but if you file it as part of a motion, it can become public knowledge. And one of the things that Trump is clearly doing everything in his power to delay these trials any way he possibly can. And it's just a comical joke at some of the stuff that he's doing. And you found out Trump's lawyers have suggested that the reason why they need a delay is, and they want censures against the prosecution, is because they don't have a computer either at their own home or in their law office where they can view the evidence the prosecutor has more than a few times tried to give them, which is part of discovery. You're the prosecution. Here's the evidence we have against your client. It's called discovery, and you basically give it to them. They have given this to Trump's people, and they keep arguing that they haven't because the one lawyer has said, I don't have a computer in my office or in my home. Now, I want you just to think about that for a second. That is a fairly bold lie, and one that's going to get you disbarred. I'm dead serious. I don't see how his lawyer gets past this. But the reality is, as funny as that is, and that is just a comical hoot. It just is. I don't have, what's a computer? That is what he is requiring his lawyers to do in federal court. I do all my calculations on the abacus. Uh, and the reason why is he knows he is dead to rights on this stuff. And once again, the insurrection case, the insurrection case against Donald Trump, I guarantee you, we are going to, when that evidence starts hitting, we are going to see stuff that we did not see. And my guess is going to be, it's going to be a, hello, it's Donnie T. This is the fourth voicemail I've left you. Yeah, the insurrection's a go. I know I lost, but we're going to try to overthrow the elections anyway. And here's a list of all the people in Congress that are helping me. There's Marjorie Taylor Greene. There, just list them all off, everyone that's involved, and just call me back. And hey, make sure you erase this, because I'd sure hate to have people have the evidence of me admitting to the crime. Now, where's my ketchup? This, he's got to delay this, and he's got to try to, and the hope is he's going to go full dictator. He has to, because even if he did win, God forbid, in November, he will do everything in his power. He'll basically say, fine, you can have your court case, but I'm basically going to, order the military to arrest you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's how he'll do it. He will do it. Because even, if the system that we have in place still stands, he'll never get off the hook. The ruling that came down today from the Federal Appeals Court, people have said that they were wondering why it was taking so long. And some of the legal experts, I think, got it exactly right. They were making a case where for the Supreme Court to basically go against them, and they might, and to give the Supreme Court a little bit of an out, they might just want to weigh in on this just because of the brevity of this. You are basically saying from here on out that no president is above the law. And we're going to make sure we dot our I's, cross our T's, and do it all the way. So don't be surprised if the Supreme Court agrees to hear this case, even though they agree with it. But that being said, the Federal Appeals Court, the ruling today, which basically says, no, Donald Trump, that you do not have immunity for life. They did their due diligence. They dotted every I, crossed every T, and they made it to where, if not for the fact that this is such a precedent-setting ruling, that basically the Supreme Court couldn't really overturn them. And so, and I have zero doubt that RV and the French Mediterranean coast, vacationer over there in Alito and in Thomas, they'll, no, he all presidents whose names are TRUMP, they basically are immune, but no one else is. I guarantee you that ruling's coming from those two dolts. But because that RV that doesn't pay for itself, and how about the gas on that sucker? Yeah, exactly. But the main ruling today comes down. A federal appeals court on Tuesday said that Donald Trump is not immune from prosecution for alleged crimes. Guilty. Well, they didn't rule on that, but I'll say guilty. Crimes he committed during his presidency, flatly rejecting Trump's arguments, that he shouldn't have to go on trial on federal election subversion charges. In a striking 57-page unanimous opinion, the panel for 3 D.C. Circuit judges wrote that the justice system allowed for a former president to face charges for actions he took while in office, and that the public interest in holding a potentially criminal president accountable outweighed any potential chilling effect on the presidency. We cannot accept that the office of the president places its former occupants above the law for all time thereafter, the opinion says. Former President Trump lacked any lawful discretionary authority to defy federal criminal law, and he is answerable in courts for his conduct, the judges added. Trump has pledged to appeal this until Monday to ask the Supreme Court to temporarily block the ruling to delay his case again from heading to trial. Now, I think the Supreme Court will weigh on this. It will be very interesting if they block this, because then maybe a Gorsuch or a Barrett, maybe even a Kavanaugh, they're getting their chain pulled, and they're saying, here's why you're here. So find a way to rule on this so that he's immune. But my gut feeling is that the Supreme Court will agree to hear this appeal, but they will allow the appeals court ruling to take effect. It's not certain how long the Supreme Court could take to consider such a request or an appeal, which would come as a special counsel Jack Smith seeks to bring Trump to trial. An early March trial date's already been postponed. Here are the key takeaways. Presidents do not have unbound authority to commit crimes. Throughout their opinion, judges Karen LaCraft Henderson, Florence Pan, and J. Michelle Childs rejected all of Trump's arguments of sweeping protections around the presidency. It would be a striking paradox if the president, who alone is vested with the constitutional duty to take care of the laws be faithfully executed, were the sole officer capable of defying those laws with impunity, the appeals court wrote on Tuesday. Trump's stances in court, the judges wrote, stand in contrast with the principle that all Americans, including former presidents, are subject to the same laws. Childs and Pan were appointed by Biden. Henderson was appointed by H.W. Bush. The judges, and they were unanimous. They also ruled that Trump's behavior in the 2020 election could be criminal. The judges were clear that the charges against Trump are serious, left no question they believe that they can be prosecuted. The panel repeatedly eviscerated Trump's alleged behavior in the 2020 presidential election as unpresidential and constituting an assault on the American institutions. We cannot accept former President Trump's claim that a president has unbound authority to commit crimes that would neutralize the most fundamental check of executive power. This recognition and implementation of election results, the judges wrote, nor can we sanction his apparent contention that the executive has carte blanche to violate the rights of individual citizens to vote and have their votes counted. The panel describes Trump as using his seat of power to unlawfully overstay his term as president and to displace his duly elected successor, all of which would violate generally accepted criminal laws. Former President Trump's alleged efforts to remain in power despite losing the 2020 election were, if proven, an unprecedented assault on the structure of our government, the panel wrote. He allegedly injected himself into a process which all president has no role, the counting and certifying of electoral college results, thereby undermining constitutionally established procedures and the will of Congress, the judges added. At the basic level, the three judges wrote that the conduct alleged in Trump's criminal indictment conflicts with his constitutional duties as president and violated the constitutionally established design for determining the results of the presidential election, as well as the Electoral Count Act of 1887, neither of which establishes a role for the president in the counting and or certifying of the Electoral College votes. There's a lot more here. And like I said, they dotted I's and crossed T's. They basically called him out and said, no, you cannot claim immunity when you are so blatantly trying to commit crimes. And that's exactly what's going on here. That is exactly what Donald Trump, criminal. That's what this is. Let's take a break. We'll come on back. More on this story. We'll keep up to date with everything as well. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Think your company's safe? Your staff is working from home, right? As I speak, cyber criminals are mounting attacks across the country. Remember, when we're weakest, cyber criminals attack. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
Hi, this is Philip Anthony, the host of the Downright Upright Show, which is on the air on Saturdays at 5 p.m. I personally want to thank you for supporting my show and for supporting AM 950. So in turn, we want to celebrate you by dedicating February as Listener Appreciation Month. All month long, we will be giving away prizes to our listeners and creating ways to better connect with you. Follow AM 950 social media accounts for chances to win. So join us by making February fantabulous.
Now at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, the Morso wood stoves qualify for a 30% tax credit.
Morso wood stoves earned the Nordic Swan Eco Label, Europe's most rigorous environmental standard. Here in the U.S., these Morso wood stoves qualify for the 30% federal tax credit. This is a credit of up to $2,000 off your income tax when you install efficient wood heating. Morsa wood stoves are known for elegant Danish design. Made of quality cast iron, this is furniture that radiates heat and warmth. Morsa brings the tradition of wood heating into the 21st century.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has been selling wood-burning products since 1977. Morso is an important part of our diverse selection of fireplace products. We want to make fire work for you. Let us show you how Morso wood-burning stoves can work in your home.
Get in touch with the folks at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. They are the chimney and installation experts. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood, gas, and electric units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
It takes teamwork to stay safe on Minnesota roads during the winter. You can help. When you see snowplows at work, slow down. Slower speeds can save lives. Don't crowd the plow and leave plenty of space between yourself and other vehicles. Keep your headlights on to see and be seen. Avoid distractions and always stay alert behind the wheel. This message brought to you by the Minnesota Department of Transportation, the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Stay like toffee, sip like coffee, wake up, change your mind and drop me in love to hate me crazy, shady, spit me out like hot wasabi, lick me up, I'm sweet and
It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Tuesday, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Once again, we're keeping an eye on the current howler monkey exhibit in the U.S. House. The Republicans trying to impeach Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. They haven't not gotten to the vote yet, but once again, it sounds like I think they have 2 votes they can wager, and 2 Republicans have already said they're not going to do this because they don't want the Democrats to start throwing out Republican cabinet members. So, we'll have to see. Would I be surprised if there was a we will throw you out of the Republican Party unless you vote along with this threats going on? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised in the least bit. But Ken Buck is one of them, and he's actually retiring. So you're not going to scare him necessarily into doing this. And frankly, I think that, I wouldn't be surprised that if that was the tone they were taking, I was like, you know what, I'll let you guys defend my seat without me in it. So, part of the ruling, by the way, was exceptionally notable because the same court had avoided weighing on Trump's January 6 actions and appeals and lawsuits against him. So basically, the fact that they weighed in on this and they said, no, you can't do what you did and not think there's not going to be criminal actions. And they also, for the first time, said there is nothing that says the president has no authority to insert themselves into the counting of the Electoral College votes, which he did. Undeniably, he did. And, so there you go. I mean, Donald Trump, this is the first day I've said to myself, you know what? He might actually end up going to jail. My guess is he'd flee to Russia or Saudi Arabia. He'd flee there and hide overseas and basically do his Twitter posts and act like there's a grand injustice. But I think that they will find, once we find out all the evidence against him. And once again, even if you are a diehard Trump fan, the appeals court basically said the president can't insert themselves into the electoral counting process. He did. End of story. Game over. Scoreboard. It's over. That case is, this is why he's got his lawyers saying, I just draw pictures on the ground with a dirt and a stick. I don't compute, or what are you talking about? Vital public interest in letting the trial proceed weighed heavily in the court. Through the 57-page ruling, the judges repeatedly referred to the public interest of letting the Trump trial move forward. They cited the public interest in accountability for potential crimes committed by the former president and how that overcame Trump's argument that immunity was necessary to protect the institution of the presidency. We conclude that the interest of criminal accountability held by both the public and the executive branch outweighs the potential risks of chilling presidential action and permitting vexatious litigation. The judges wrote in their opinion, we have balanced former President Trump's asserted interests in executive immunity against the vital public interests that favor allowing the prosecution to proceed. The judges flatly reject Trump's claim that his criminal indictment could have a chilling effect on future administrations. Trump argues that presidents might be more hesitant to act if they were concerned about the prospect of criminal charges. Well, if you're committing a crime, can I just say this? If a future president says, wait a second, if I shoot this person, they might charge me with murder. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Studying the hand a little bit. I guess that's just me, though. The appeals court pointed that past presidents to refute Trump. The judges noted that Gerald Ford issued a full pardon of Nixon after Nixon's resignation, and that Bill Clinton cut a deal, including a paying a fine and temporarily giving up his law license to avoid possible criminal charges while an independent prosecutor investigated him. The panel went on to quote that in Nixon-era Supreme Court ruling about the bounds of presidential immunity, saying the federal prosecution of a former president fits the case when judicial action is needed to serve broad public interest in order to vindicate the public interest in an ongoing criminal prosecution. These findings were consistent with the rationale provided by Chutkan, who similarly dismantled Trump's immunity claims in resounding fashion last year. And it's like I said, this is the first time, though. I mean, now you got the appeals court basically unanimously backing them up and writing a very, very terse response to the Trump administration's argument that you can't hold him accountable. And like I said, and they're getting into details and points of his crimes now. So they also waited on the impeachment acquittal argument. This is what they've said. Well, it's funny because they argue that the only way you can hold someone accountable it's all political if you impeach them. So politics shouldn't play a role in it. But then Trump said, oh, it's all legal. The impeachment was legal, so he's acquitted of all charges. The judges also rejected Trump's argument that because the Senate did not convict him on the charge of inciting an insurrection in the wake of the Capitol riot in 2021, he cannot be charged criminally for the same crime. Other courts have rejected this tortured interpretation of the law, the judges wrote, adding that former President Trump's reliance on a negative implication is an immediate red flag. Trump's reading of the Constitution, the judges added, well, he can't read. Come on. He looks at the pictures in the stroke test and he sees the whale and he sees his second wife. I mean, come on, man. It's like, you think this guy reads? This is not exactly Johnny Rosetta Stone over here. Reads. Mr. President, I've got you a picture book about the Constitution. Picture book! The ketchup is Thomas Jefferson. Where was I? Free to commit. Courts rejected the torture argument. The judge wrote that former president's reliance on negative implications is immediate red flag. Trump's reading of the Constitution, the judges added, would leave the president free to commit all manner of crimes with impunity as long as he is not impeached and convicted. During the impeachment trial in 2021, several Republican senators who voted to acquit Trump, including Senate GOP leader Mitch McNeil, said they're doing so because the courts and justice systems could still hold Trump accountable. In the decision, the judges also noted that impeachment proceedings are political in nature and acquittals in Congress are often unrelated to factual innocence. The 43 senators who voted to acquit him relied on a variety of concerns, many of which had nothing to do with whether he committed the charged offense, they wrote. The key part of the Trump's legal strategy has been to delay his criminal cases until after the 2024 election, and the 4 weeks between oral arguments in the appeals court and Tuesday ruling had already meant next month's March 4th trial date has been scrapped. Perhaps to speed things along, the appeals court established his 6-day schedule for Trump to respond to Tuesday's ruling, giving Trump until February 12th to file an emergency request with the Supreme Court to ask for the case to be put on hold to hear his appeal. That would stop the clock while his attorneys craft a more substantive appeal to the merits. The criminal case could not resume until after the high court decides what to do with his request for pause. The Supreme Court, however, can take as long as it likes to each step. The justices determine how long the Justice Department will have to respond to any Trump petition, how long Trump has to respond to the controls when they make the ruling. Trump's team can also appeal to the full D.C. circuit to make up the case again, but the appeals court on Tuesday said That would only pause his trial further if a majority of judges on the D.C. court agreed to hear the case again in an unlikely scenario. If Trump does not appeal the ruling, the case would be sent back to the trial level court in D.C. as soon as next week. And once again, to my knowledge, what they can do is say, we're not going to stop this from being enacted, but we'll hear it. But this trial is still going forward. We'll have to see if that's the case, what happens there. Let's take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
When my depression works the graveyard shift all of the people.
Let Next Chapter Booksellers help you find the perfect Valentine's Day gift for your significant other. After all, books last longer than flowers and are better for you than chocolate. The friendly staff at Next Chapter Booksellers are great at making personal recommendations, no matter the taste of your special someone. Plus, they have beautiful cards to add a little something to your gift. So sweeten this year's Valentine's Day with something thoughtful from Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
No matter if you're eating out or cooking something at home, eatlocalminnesota.com has you covered with a list of locally owned restaurants and food purveyors. Locally owned Vinaigrette has been offering the finest olive oil and vinegar since 2009. Reintroduce yourself to all the many flavors by tasting before you buy. From darker white balsamic to cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil from all over the world, there is something for everyone. Vinaigrette, located at 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis, or at vinaigrettemn.com. The Park Tavern is your go-to destination for fun. Enjoy the fantastic food like their pizzas, burgers, and sandwiches, the best bowling in Minnesota, their wildly popular outdoor patio, great drink specials, all the big games on their numerous screens, and it's the perfect place for your next private event, even large gatherings for over 200. The Park Tavern is your go-to destination for everyone. Have fun at the Park Tavern, Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Hi, Matt McNeil here. You're listening to the best progressive radio in Minnesota. It's AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 52. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 39. And Wednesday, cloudy with a high around 54. Cafe Latte is a hot spot for American eats and house-made desserts in a cafeteria-style setup, plus a pizza and wine bar. Cafe Latte believes ingredients matter, so that's why they never use artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. Dine in at the restaurant off Victoria and Grand at St. Paul, or place a takeout order at cafelatte.com.
Broadcasting in the evening right here on WCPT, 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the afternoons on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It is the Matt McNeil Show, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Once again, keeping up to date on the impeachment vote on the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. Once again, it sounds like enough Republicans have said that they're not going to go along with this, that this is a moot point. Now, once again, are their arms being twisted? I'm going to guess, considering roid rage, Taylor Greene over there is, I'm guessing she's trying to break every arm she can to try to get this to happen, but I just don't think it is. And so at the end of all this, you guys demanded a bill to go deal with the border. You said you wanted to hold Mayorkas accountable for what's going on the border. And yet here you are. Not only did you guys turn away a bill, which was a freaking sweetheart deal for the Republicans. That bill was a sweetheart deal. And just watch the Border Patrol Union go after Fox News for bad mouthing this bill. Holy God, they've gone after all these Republicans who have said, no, this is a bad deal. No. They were like, this is a great idea. This was going to advance things more than they've been advanced in 40 years on the border. Not only that, but if it holds true and a few Republicans hold out, guess what? They don't get rid of Mayorkas either. And they basically get to sit there and go, we sent a message. Yeah, you guys are a bunch of freaking idiots. That's the message you sent. One paragraph in Tuesday's ruling that basically said, Trump, you are susceptible to go to jail. You can be held accountable for your crimes. One paragraph in Tuesday's ruling caught the attention of legal experts who were also watching the 14th Amendment insurrection ban case as being argued in the Supreme Court on Thursday. The cases are entirely separate. This is a criminal prosecution against Trump. The upcoming Supreme Court case is a civil attempt to remove Trump from state ballots, though. Further, the appeals court findings and explanations on Tuesday ruling are not binding to the Supreme Court in any capacity in that case with Colorado. Nonetheless, the appeals ruling described the president as an officer. There is an open legal question being argued Thursday before the Supreme Court over whether the presidency is an office under the United States and whether the president is an officer as described in the insurrection ban. The appeals court ruling said it would be a striking paradox if the president, who alone is vested with the constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, were the sole officer capable of defying those laws with impunity. So, once again, they basically came on back and said, no, you are an officer. You assume the office. And I can't put my warning flags up enough on this. The only way he gets out of this is if he wins the election somehow and he just scraps the entire system. What this appeals court is basically saying is we are still a country of laws and rules. And he is hearing that, which basically means we got to shut down the courts. We got to shut down the Congress. We have to basically put him in power, and he's the only power that exists. And that's what has to happen. Make no mistake, what this has done is, and these judges that keep delaying his court cases, what they're doing is getting him to a point where he can basically go out there and scrap the entire system of democracy we have so that he doesn't get held accountable. Jams as much billions of dollars in his pocket. Heck, at that point, my guess would be he would just back up a bus to the Treasury, tell them, load it up, boys. I want all $1,000 and $10,000 bills. And he would drive it off, basically leave the country, leave his vice president in charge, saying, you got to rebuild democracy somehow. Just make sure you pardon me after I've taken all this money. I'm dead serious. That's where this guy is going because it's his only way out. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. We are in a world right now where this actually could happen. That this actually could happen. But that's the world we're living in. And once again, you may not like Joe Biden as much as you like other politicians. That's fine. That's fine. But at the end of the day, in the worst case scenario, Joe Biden's an Arby's beef and cheddar. Not the meal you really want, although I do like a good beef and cheddar. Oh, those are tasty. Not the meal that you maybe want, but it's still edible food. Donald Trump is an actual crap sandwich. Feces between two pieces of bread. That is who Donald Trump is. It's not food. It will kill you. It's toxic. It's the human centipede buffet, for God's sakes. Sorry. I mean, this is afternoon. What am I saying? No, you have to make sure you keep that in perspective. I'm not happy with Joe Biden on some things. In Minnesota here, I wasn't happy with Governor Tim Walz on some things. But you'd be a fool if you thought for 1 second that I wasn't going to be showing up to the polls and voting for Tim Walz back in 2022. Of course I was. Same thing goes here. And no matter what your issue is that you say, Joe Biden's let me down, trust me, Go look at what Trump's saying he's going to do. Because if you're upset about what Joe Biden's going to do, then you'll be sitting there, because there's a lot of people that were in, when it came down to it in 2017, that when Trump started to do these things, they were also, we sent a message, we sent a message. And then all of a sudden, Trump started doing Trump things. Well, we didn't think that was going to happen. You didn't. You should have. You are dealing with someone, there is this naivete that we have with a guy like Trump, that he's running for president because he wants to be like, well, he wants to be like Lincoln or Reagan or something like this. No, he's running for president because it's the biggest grift of all time. He can look at the billions that his daughter and husband walked away with from that their term in office. All the Chinese patents, all the money from the Saudis, all the business relationships that went through Jared. It's the biggest grift of all time. You're a fool if you don't think that Donald Trump sold national secrets to the highest bidder in foreign governments. That's why he had all that stuff down at Mar-a-Lago. You guys get all upset because Joe Biden had a folder in his garage. Dude, he had boxes and boxes, and there still is tons of stuff. And now we're finding out about secret rooms at Mar-a-Lago. The idea that he wanted to run because he just wanted to be that guy in a Norman Rockwell painting who's a hardworking guy. He didn't even have time to go home and change his clothes. He just came to the town meeting dirty from a hard day's work. And he's got an idea. And he's white, of course, because it's Norman Rockwell. But he's got an idea. And he stands up and he speaks before the audience. And all the people, the banker and the elderly guy and the veteran, they're all looking up at him like, yeah, he's got it. For white America. But he's got it. That's not why Donald Trump ran for office. And at this point, that large, pathetic, orange tumor on our country is now painted into a corner. And his only option is to get probably one of those big helicopters, because he's a big boy. 215. Sure. They're going to have to lift him out of here and take him to Russia or take him to Saudi Arabia and hide him from prosecution. Or he somehow manages to win the election of 2024 and immediately dismantles democracy itself, because even these judges are saying, no, you get to be held accountable. So the only option he would have is to basically get military leaders. Let's go back to Tommy Tuberville, the stupidest man to ever become a senator. Tommy Tuberville down in Alabama, who's basically making sure only certain Army officials get leadership roles. To find military people that are subservient to Trump, overthrow the Congress, overthrow the Supreme Court, basically say my rules, my way, and basically make all this stuff go away. Probably a few summary executions. And then he'll come back and say, well, but now it's all normal again. It's all normal again. Just you can never prosecute me. We've written that into law now. Speaker Marjorie Taylor Greene has basically made sure that that's the law of the land. You can never, ever, ever hold me accountable. Now we'll go back, okay? You think that this is not me exaggerating at this point. This ruling makes what's going to happen painfully clear if Donald Trump wins again. Painfully clear. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Two more things. First of all, that involve legal things. Actually, three things that involve legal things. This news day is nuts. Any of these other ones would probably be the primary thing. I just spent 45 minutes on that one because it was so huge. Engeron, the Judge Engeron from New York. He has demanded answers from the former president's lawyers in a new email suggesting Trump is even more trouble, said the Daily Beast. The New York Times reported last week that longtime former Trump organization chief financial officer Alan Weisselberg is in talks with Manhattan prosecutors to plead guilty to perjury after a Forbes article discredited his claims about Trump's inflated penthouse apartment value. Weisselberg was abruptly pulled from the stand in Trump's fraud trial after the article was published. As the presiding magistrate, the trier of fact, and the judge of credibility, I, of course, want to know whether Mr. Weisselberg is now changing his tune and whether he's admitting he lied under oath in my courtroom at this trial, he wrote in an email to Trump's legal team in the New York Attorney General's office. He also noted that Weisselberg's lies could be used to completely toss out everything he has said in defense of the company and even allow the judge to make negative inferences about the Trump organization's fraudulent conduct. Although the Times article focuses on the seas of Trump Tower penthouse, his testimony on other topics could also be called into question. I also may use this as a basis to invoke falsus in uno, the judge said, referring to the maxim false in one thing, false in everything. I do not want to ignore anything in case of this magnitude, he added. Trump's lawyers have until 5 p.m. on Wednesday to respond to that. How is he going to respond to that? He doesn't have a computer, man. He's sitting there with his Game Boy. Oh, I'll figure this out eventually. Game Boy. How about another story? Yeah, so there you have Weisselberg. Now we know why the judge put off the ruling in that case. He basically said Weisselberg is dead to rights perjuring himself, and part of his testimony is going to impact the penalty that is handed down on the Trump business case. So now he needs to hear about that. So that's not going away anytime soon. Now here's another one. This has nothing to do with Trump, although it has to do with the inertia of Trump in the post Roe v. Wade ruling, where in Texas they tried to make an argument that basically that mifepristone, this was the drug, the abortion drug, was dangerous, and they quoted a story about it. And now the study that was the basis of these court filings has been removed. 2 studies used to justify a crackdown on mifepristone access were retracted on Monday by the scientific publisher Sage over undeclared conflicts of interest with anti-abortion groups and a lack of scientific rigor used in the research. So basically, they're saying it was a bunch of anti-abortion people that were putting this out, and they didn't do their scientific research because they were not looking for actual science. They were looking for opinion. Both the studies have been used by anti-abortion plaintiffs and conservative federal judges in Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine versus FDA to cast doubt on the FDA's longstanding approval of the drug, which is used in the most common method of abortion in the United States. The case is scheduled to go before the U.S. Supreme Court next month. The academic publisher said in a statement that it took a closer look at the studies to respond to the readers' concerns. Sage confirmed that all but one of the article's authors had an affiliation with one or more of Charlotte Lozier Institute, Elliott Institute, the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists, all pro-life advocacy organizations, despite having declared they have no conflicts of interest when they submitted the article for publication or in the article itself. Which, once again, you're learning a little legal stuff. You can't do that. You can't have that kind of a close tie and then think that you're going to be able to basically separate that out. Let's take a break. Come on back. Even more when we do return. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Reliability. It's something you demand, and it's something that Rudy Luther Toyota delivers. Consumer Reports just put out their 2024 list of most reliable vehicles, and 7 out of the top 10 are Toyotas, including the top 4, the 4Runner, the Camry Hybrid, the Camry, and the RAV4 Prime. The Highlander Hybrid, the Corolla, and the RAV4 also made the top 10. If 7 out of the top 10 most reliable vehicles are Toyotas, that tells you Toyotas overall are the most reliable brand. Get yourself a Toyota today. Head to Rudy Luther Toyota and test drive your favorite Toyota. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169. February is AM 950 Listener Appreciation Month. We can't run the station without you, and we wanted to show you how much we appreciate you listening to us. How it works is pretty simple. Throughout February, we'll ask you to like posts on Facebook, sign up for our e-newsletter, and call into the shows. When you do, you'll have a chance at winning prizes like gift cards to restaurants, tickets to our listener appreciation events, and much more. It's our way of thanking you for being a listener to AM 950. You are appreciated. Thanks from everyone at the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Mavericks has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had, made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Mavericks Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Hey there, Twin Cities. This is Andy Otto, your host for Twin Cities Pride Amplified. Join me as we dive into everything LGBTQIA+. From rights to culture, health, and events, we cover it all. Pride isn't just a June thing, it's year-round, and so is our show. Whether you're a part of the queer family or an ally, this is your space. Tune in to Twin Cities Pride Amplified every Saturday at 3 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, it's Patrick. February is the month for love. So when's the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it really deserves? If your carpet hasn't been professionally cleaned, you are breathing unhealthy levels of nasty dirt, dander, bacteria, and germs that keep recirculating again and again and again. Lucky for you, Zero Res is going to spread the love to you and your home with their Love Your Rug special. Get 3 rooms Zero Resified starting at just $119 and a free hallway. And don't forget dirt and dander's favorite hiding place either, your air ducts. This month, take $75 off when you get your air ducts Zero Res clean. Call Zero Res right now or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. If you're a business owner, protect your employees and customers by getting your business Zero Resified by the pros at Zero Res. Call today for your commercial cleaning estimate. Backward or forward smells the same. Zero Res.
It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Tuesday. Oh, by the way, a few things. So I'm going to get Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer in the 4 o'clock hour. Also, we've got we're going to be talking to Rotary International. They got their big event coming into town here. That's going to be talking about that. And also, it's Listener Appreciation Week, Listener Appreciation Month, I should say, on the Mothership AM 950 in Minneapolis, St. Paul. We got some tickets to give away coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. So back to the mifepristone story, because this is major. Because once again, this is people have pointed this is a flawed study anyway. And the people that put the study out have now determined that these doctors that supposedly did this research did not disclose. All of them outside of one seem to have been connected to anti-abortion groups. And on top of that, they didn't do their research. As a result of Sage inquiring into the author's conflict of interest, Sage became aware that the peer reviewer who evaluated the article for the initial publication was also affiliated with Charlotte Lozier Institute at the time of the review, aka a notorious anti-abortion group. Researchers James Studnicki and Teresa Longbond said in a statement on State Newsroom that the retractions constituted a baseless ideological attack on our scientific research and experts. Basically, you figured us out. Now we're just going to call it. It's like it's the woke culture coming after us. Woke. That's what they're going to say. Also today, and this was I can't tell you how happy I am they found her guilty. A jury has found Jennifer Crumby, whose son killed 4 students at a Michigan high school, a mass shooting in 2021, guilty of manslaughter, a crime she was charged with because she and her husband gave her then 15-year-old son a gun despite his behavioral issues. Crumbly, 45, was found guilty on all 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter prosecutors charged her with over her role in the deadly shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan's Oxford Township. It's believed to be the first time the parents of a shooter have been held accountable for their child's actions. Each charge carries a maximum penalty of 15 years. Her sentencing is scheduled for April 9th. Prosecutors argued that she and her husband, James Crumbly, who is set to go stand trial next month, were responsible for their 15-year-old son Ethan's rampage because they bought him a semi-automatic handgun just days before he opened fire at school, even though their son was struggling with mental state and exhibiting disturbing behavior. In her closing arguments on February 2nd, Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald said there were several things Jennifer Crumbly could have done to stop the shooting. Hours before the killings took place, when the school called her and her husband onto campus to discuss disturbing images Ethan had drawn of guns and gunshot victims, McDonald said that Jennifer Crumby's got not only dismissed school's officials' concerns, but also failed to inform them she'd recently given her son a gun. So, by the way, as much as what do you bet she sat there is like, look at this school getting woke. You're getting all woke. And then her son, and then all of a sudden it wasn't me, it was everybody else. How do you hold me accountable? The try thinking about this is none of the basically in a closing argument. McDonald said that Jennifer Crumbley's not only dismissed school officials' concerns, but then tell her about her son having a gun. The tragic thing about it is none of that was hard. McDonald said of the actions Jennifer Crumbley could have taken, including go home after the meeting with school officials to check on if the gun was securely stored away. Prosecutors also noted that the months before the shooting, Ethan had texted his mom that he was hearing voices and seeing demons. And in text to friends, he said his mother laughed when he asked her to get some medical help. In a journal, he wrote, I want to help, but my parents don't listen to me, so I can't get any help. I have zero help for my mental problems, and it's causing me to shoot up the blank school. Jennifer Crumbley's son was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole last December. Her defense team largely shifted the blame to her husband, saying he was the parent with firearm knowledge and the one who actually purchased the gun for Ethan. They also argued that the couple truly didn't know the extent of their son's behavioral issues. Yeah, but you sure laughed at that. God, it rains, it pours, man, with news. All right. We got in Minnesota, just FYI, I got a new Senate DFL leader for you. We'll talk about that when we get into the top of the hour news here. Finally, and we're still keeping track of this story because let me just shuffle through my briefs here and see if I got an update here. This is on the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas impeachment vote. They're out. The last I checked, they were out doing their posturing on this here. They're doing the debates on whether they should impeach him. Once again, you got two Republicans who've said that he is not going to that they shouldn't do this, and that's all you need to not have a majority. And so yeah, this is not going to go anywhere. I just don't think. There are no updates here, but I do want to mention this. This is Representative Mark Green. Now, this was before apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene also went on a bit of a racist rant, because it should be noted that Mayorkas is Jewish. And so Mark Green was first up. Now, I haven't really gone through the Marjorie Taylor Greene things, but I'll let Jose Canseco over there. I'll deal with her tomorrow. Representative Mark Green, the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, reportedly referred to Mayorkas as a reptile during a private meeting with GOP colleagues earlier on Tuesday. This reptile has no blank to resign like Nixon did, Green said, according to political reporter Olivia Beavers. The comment could certainly be read as anti-Semitic slur against Mayorkas, who is Jewish. In its glossary of anti-Semitic terms, the American Jewish Committee says that creatures like reptilian men and other subhuman monsters are often used as a form of coded anti-Semitism. And it's Mark Green from Tennessee, for God's sakes. I mean, it's not exactly like we're drawing a web here. This is a pretty freaking straight line from A to B. Okay, let's just call it what it is. Green leads the committee that advanced the two articles of impeachment against Mayorkas and is helping run the House floor debate. His apparent use of the ugly slur against the Homeland Security Secretary comes after his committee used charged language in its report about impeaching Mayorkas. The committee said it was deporting Mayorkas from his job. Mayorkas immigrated to the United States from Cuba when he was 1 year old. But hey, what's a little racism and bigotry? Because let's face it, that's who the Republicans are trying to appeal to most of all, the racists and the bigots. Israel, do you see this? Do you guys see any of this? Do you? There are about 4 more stories I didn't even have time to get to. This is a nuts news day, man. I'll try to get as much of this stuff posted as I can online later on. Yeah. It's been a busy one. We'll keep an eye on the Mayorkas thing as well, coming in the 4 o'clock hour. Chicago, have a good day. We will talk to you on a Wednesday with Jeff Stein. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next.
Hey there, AM 950 community. Join me, J. Peter Bogosian, every Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. for a double dose of queer joy. This queer book saved my life and The Gaily Show. These programs are a jubilant celebration of the transformative impact of queer literature and the dynamic spirit of LGBTQ+ culture and entertainment right here in Minnesota. Tune in and be a part of this vibrant community. For all the details, visit thisqueerbook.com and am950radio.com.
Mental health challenges among our youth have reached crisis levels post-pandemic. Anxiety, depression, trauma, and addiction are at unprecedented levels among teens and young adults. Parents, if your adolescent, teen, or young adult is struggling with mental health challenges, empower them with a fresh start at Hazelden Betty Ford. Hazelden Betty Ford can provide a clear path forward for you and your children, in network with most insurance. This message is brought to you by Hazelden Betty Ford, the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Your Need to Know News headquarters, the Tom Hartman Program, AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Mike Hempen. President Biden is challenging Congress as a Senate deal on border security and Ukraine aid falls apart.
Within days of bipartisan negotiators reaching a compromise, Senate Republicans have backed away from the package.
Because they're afraid of Donald Trump. Afraid of Donald Trump.
The GOP frontrunners have been whipping Republicans against the package, and the president's calling on them to do the right thing.
They owe it to the American people to show some spine.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is not budging, even if the Senate passes the bill.
I'm not going to put it on the floor in its current form. I've already said that.
The bill's rapid failure leaves the president with no clear way to get Ukraine aid through Congress as Kyiv struggles with arms shortages amid a renewed Russian onslaught. Sagar Magani at the White House.
A federal appeals panel has ruled that Donald Trump can face charges that he plotted to overturn the results of the 2020 election, sharply rejecting the former president's claims that he is immune from prosecution. The ruling sets the stage for additional challenges that could further delay the case. One of the wettest storms in Southern California history has unleashed more than 300 mudslides in the Los Angeles area after dumping more than half the amount of rainfall the city typically gets in a season in just 2 days. Mayor Karen Bass says the danger is not over.
Angelenos should know that even though the rain may ease up a bit today, this storm continues, and that means we still need Angelenos to take precautions and to stay informed during this time.
A Michigan jury has convicted a school shooter's mother of involuntary manslaughter in the killings of 4 students in 2021. Jennifer Crumley is the first parent in the U.S. to be held responsible for a child carrying out a mass school attack. This is AP News.
Progressive presents Flo and Jamie announcing a monster truck rally.
And here comes the obliterator.
Whoa! And he's up on 2 wheels. That can't be safe.
Oh, I don't recommend flipping your car backwards.
Did he even check his blind spot?
And the car's on fire.
I definitely don't recommend that.
This is one of my recurring nightmares.
Progressive is all about keeping it safe, so bundle your home and auto for 24/7 protection. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Coverage not provided for monster trucks. Not available in all states.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. There are a lot of great dads out there. Sometimes those dads get divorced. For more than 30 years, we've represented men in divorce, confronting the pitfalls that could devastate your finances or harm your family relationships. While every situation is different, our goal is to get the best outcome for you and your kids. Visit CordellCordell.com to take the first step.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Twin Cities attorneys, a partner men can count on. CordellCordell.com.
Paid for by Cordell & Cordell.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. Matt McNeil here. We have a big announcement. February is AM 950 Listener Appreciation Month. Even though this station has a powerhouse lineup throughout the day, this station wouldn't exist without you, the loyal listeners of AM 950. And we want to let you know how much we appreciate you listening. Thanks to the generosity of our member listeners, we have a few extra tickets to give away for a listener appreciation event. This is a special thank you to you, our listeners. All this week, listen to the Matt McNeil Show, Native Roots Radio, and Ghost Box Radio for your chance to win a pair of tickets to our listener appreciation event, Meet and Greet, on February 13th. There are also chances to win tickets by liking our Facebook page and by signing up for the AM 950 e-newsletter on am950radio.com. Tune into AM 950 throughout the entire month of February for other giveaways, like gift cards to restaurants and more. It's our way of thanking you for being a listener to AM 950. You are appreciated. Thanks from everyone at the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 52, tonight partly cloudy with a low around 39, and Wednesday cloudy with a high around 54. Cafe Latte is a hot spot for American eats and house-made desserts in a cafeteria-style setup plus a pizza and wine bar. Cafe Latte believes ingredients matter, so that's why they never use artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. Dine in at the restaurant off Victoria and Grand in St. Paul or place a takeout order at cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here on your Tuesday. Matt, Patrick, Brett here. Lots to get to today. A lot to get to today. It is a really busy news day. We're going to do kind of a little rapid fire. Okay, we're going to have to because I got to try to get as much of this stuff in as possible here. First of all, I want to mention it sounds like Aaron Murphy has been elected. Now, you and Cooligan, we'll preview this. You and Cooligan kind of speculate about who the new DFL leader is going to be, correct?
Yeah, we do a little speculating on which direction they might go, and Murphy was certainly one of the names that we were thinking would be a favorite as landing that majority leader job.
Well, and I don't think that's too much of a shocker and any kind of surprise. And so Aaron Murphy, and what makes this interesting is this reminder: she ran to a point against Walz for the governor's race. And Walz basically kind of kiboshed the whole nurses thing. Aaron Murphy's really big on the nurses union. I'm going to guess there's going to be a little butting of heads on that issue again this upcoming session. That could be the case there. So we have that issue coming up here. I do want to mention this. Just this is not breaking, but remember when we talked about they were thinking about doing a Prince musical, and I said there's no way in the planet you could start it anywhere. You have to debut it in Minneapolis. They're going to debut it in Minneapolis. The Prince musical, Purple Rain, will premiere in Minneapolis before going to Broadway. Now, before anyone starts saying, I got to go get tickets, they haven't even cast this thing yet. Maybe I could play the drummer in the doctor's outfit, man. The medical guy.
Any kind of extra role would be worth it in that. That's going to be a good show.
Okay, no, it's not a movie. You'd have to be up on stage, an extra on the stage. It's just going to have you kind of, no, we're not going to. I have enough of white guy dancing in the 80s. And no, we're done with that. We're not going to do that.
There's Matt McNeil in the background of this great dance.
Hi there. I'm dancing. No. They want this. I would say you said who would they get to play Prince? I think the reality is Bruno Mars is the only one that came close, and he can't play guitar. So you still have I think this is going to be a search. I think there's going to be a search for him on that one. So there's that. The big story today, everyone's talking about this. Lutzen, Minnesota. 2 chimneys were all that were left standing after piles of rubble, burned rubble on Tuesday morning during the and after the historic Lutzen Lodge on Lake Superior destroyed the treasured destination for generations of Minnesotans. Pockets of the wooden structure were still crackling with flames at midday. The firefighters were still on the scene. Thick, smoky haze filled the air. Nearby trees were charred, and the plume of water showered down on them remained a smoky foundation of the historic lodge. It's a natural disaster, said Edward Venages, the general manager for the past 5 years, who was at the site taking photos. It contained to us, but it's a natural disaster. So the state fire marshal is investigating. It sounds like it started in the main hall on the floor in there somewhere. Now, the first thing I would think about is, do you have electrical outlets in those? Because a lot of places have electrical plugins for like vacuums and stuff in the middle of the floor. I wonder if that's where it would happen. They did not have anyone staying there overnight, so no one was injured. No damn good news there. No one injured, no one hurt. But yeah, this is. I know a lot of people. I was there 25 years ago. I went up there. Lovely place. I know a lot of people it was an annual tradition for them to go up there. So a big loss for the North Shore.
Yeah, hopefully they can get that rebuilt at some point.
Apparently it has been. I want to mention this. It has burned down before. 1951, it burnt down. That was, and apparently they've had on and off fires before over there. So
this one lasted 70 years. That's not a bad run.
That's not
bad. That. Yeah.
It got it 55, Okay. I'm good there. Okay, we got to get to the interview here, but we have to as well take some time to talk about Listener Appreciation Month here on AM 950, because once again, this is our way of saying thank you very much to the listener. And by the way, I do want to make sure I take a quick moment here. Tom Gump going to join us, Rotary International. They got the big announcement about the 2029 get together they're having here in Minneapolis. We'll talk to him coming up later on this hour. Patrick Cooligan with the Minnesota Reformer. But right now, let's talk about thanking the listeners, because the Listener Appreciation Month, this is long overdue. We would not be here if not for you guys. And every day we get to do this, it's just an absolute pleasure because I get to interact with you. And it is just so much fun. And we sure do love it quite a bit. We have all sorts of. Can we announce any of the final stuff? And not yet.
Not the big grand prize, but people are going to want that.
People are going to go crazy for that.
Yeah,
they're going to go crazy for that. We have other things we're going to be giving away all month long, including gift certificates to restaurants, other Twin Cities events coming up here. But we are right now this week. There's a few ways for you to enter in to possibly win yourself tickets to the Listener Appreciation event we're having next Tuesday, a week from today. And that's 6 to 8 p.m. This is just an event to get together where we are going to say hi, and I'll be there. Some of the other station staff will be there. Some of the on-air hosts will be there. We're just there to say hi, and it's for you. It's an event for you guys.
I was going to say, we just did confirmation. Robert's going to be there, and so will Greg Bakken. So we'll have the whole crew.
We'll be all out there.
Yeah.
But there not ways for you to possibly get tickets. Now, first of all, you need to go to our Facebook page, right?
Yep, our Facebook page at AM 950 Radio. That is one way where you can enter the contest for your chance to win. Basically, all you need to do is either like our page or like any of the content you see on our page.
I'm streaming there now, folks. Yeah. You can like that. And there's a lot to like. So you like or follow anything on our Facebook page.
Yep, and like our page as well.
Okay.
And you'll be having a chance to win those tickets.
The newsletter as well. We have you can sign up for the newsletter. That's at am950radio.com, right?
am950radio.com. What's happening during the month of February? We are sending out newsletter blasts on Mondays and Thursdays. So we got another one coming up on Thursday, and it's super simple. All you need to do is to reply to that email with your name and your phone number, and you'll be entered for a chance to win. That simple. Just reply to our newsletter that's sent out Mondays and Thursdays. If you didn't receive our Monday, make sure you sign up at am950radio.com and you'll get that Thursday edition.
All right. And here's the other deal. We are giving away tickets. And guess what? Right now, I'm going to give away a pair of tickets to the Listener Appreciation event coming up here a week from tonight. We're going to be at the Park Tavern. So your chance right now to win a pair of tickets to the Listener Appreciation event, all you have to do is be caller number 5 at 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. Be caller number 5. You'll win yourself a pair of tickets to the Listener Appreciation event, and you will join us a week from Tuesday over at the Park Tavern. So look for that. While we're doing that, you and Patrick Cooligan, what are the other things you guys are talking about?
Yeah, as we alluded to, we talked a little bit about that race for the DFL Senate Majority Leader. We're also going to be talking about that Ilhan Omar controversy last week, and a little bit more about how the Minnesota Reformer was able to prove these Republicans wrong who were trying to say that Ilhan Omar was making statements that she didn't make. And then we'll touch on Aaron Brown's column talking about U.S. Steel possibly being bought by another conglomerate company.
I have something for Brad Finstad to come up later on this hour. I got something for Brad
special
Finstad.
for him.
Just
Right.
for Brad, just for Opie.
I'm sure he's looking forward to it.
Caller number 5, 952-946-6205. Caller number 5, 952-946-6205. You'll join us for the listener appreciation event. Here it is. It's Patrick Cooligan right here on AM. It's Patrick Cooligan with Brett right here on AM 950.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brett Johnson with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. And as usual, we are joined by Patrick Cooligan, who is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. Make sure you go to minnesotareformer.com for the latest in Minnesota news and politics. I have a lot of stories to talk through today, including a column that Aaron Brown wrote about this possible U.S. Steel being bought out by a Japanese company and facing a lot of pushback on the Iron Range. We're going to talk about what that means and why these unions on the Iron Range are pushing for another buyer of U.S. Steel. We'll also be talking about the DFL picking a new Senate majority leader, as well as last week's Ilhan Omar controversy. Patrick, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's start off talking a little bit about this Ilhan Omar controversy from last week. Obviously, you've probably heard about this before listening to the stations. We won't spend a ton of time on it, at least in terms of the background. But just in case you missed what happened, Ilhan Omar continues to face criticism and, well, calls from Republicans to resign, including, I believe, even an order from Marjorie Taylor Greene to try to remove her from the House. Tom Emmer has also said she should resign. And why? Well, because Republicans are basing their argument on a flawed translation of a speech she made at the Minneapolis Hyatt a little over a week ago. The translation under dispute from that speech characterized Omar's comments this way about an agreement signed last month between landlocked Ethiopia to give access to the sea by way of Somalia's coastline. The U.S. government, this is what they allege, Ilhan Omar said, the U.S. government will only do what Somalians and the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else. They must follow our orders. Now, you guys over at the Minnesota Reformer had a couple of Somali interpreters go and translate what Ilhan Omar actually said, and as it turns out, that wasn't what she said whatsoever, correct?
Right. Then there's a lot of red flags here that people should have detected if they were really interested in the truth of what she was saying. Well, I suspect they weren't. I think they decided that she was speaking in Somali, and that was going to be enough to get some of their base riled up, and then they had this mistranslation that was posted, I should note, by a political foe. It was somebody from Somaliland, which is this breakaway republic that's not recognized by the United States or the rest of the international community. So you should have been skeptical right away. I mean, if my political opponent posts something about me, I mean, aren't we automatically skeptical? And then there was a couple things in the alleged English translation, the incorrect English translation, that also should have raised red flags. One was that she said we are Somalians first. That's not how Somali people refer to themselves. They use the term Somali, not Somalian. And secondly, she purported to have said that we are Somalians first and Muslims second. Just a devout Muslims would not say that in a room full of other devout Muslims. And I think that would be true of a lot of religious people and other religions. You would never say you were a Christian second, I don't think. I went to the University of Notre Dame, and one of the unofficial mottos was God, Country, Notre Dame. It was not country, God, Notre Dame. No, nobody would ever say that. And so this should have really raised red flags. But instead of doing the basic thing here, which is what we decided we should do, go out and try to just hire people who can translate this for us. Somebody like Tom Emmer just says, well, she's expressing the Somalia first ideology or worldview, and by implication is not loyal to the United States, and therefore she should resign in disgrace. I'd love to know if Tom Emmer, now seeing what she actually said, if he still thinks that she should just resign in disgrace, or if maybe he should apologize for making that allegation about her. But it was also an interesting episode, I thought, for the national media, because they all these other outlets were just reporting this as a kind of typical sort of controversy. Well, people say that she is disloyal or not expressing loyalty to the United States. She's expressing loyalty to Somalia. And then they report that, well, she says, no, that's not what she said. And nobody actually went out and hired an interpreter to figure out what she actually said. And so it was kind of like a typical episode of national media doing this kind of he said, she said, and who could know what the truth is? Well, you could know what the truth is. Granted, it wasn't, we had an advantage because obviously there's a lot of certified Somali interpreters, or there's a few anyway around here. And so I'm glad we were able to do that. But I would hope it would be something of a cautionary tale for everyone. Anytime you see something on the internet, especially in a foreign language, you should be very wary of what people are saying that it says, because they have their own agenda. In this case, the person who posted that mistranslation clearly had her own agenda.
Absolutely. And especially when we're talking about a foreign language, which, let's be honest, most people are not familiar with and don't know how to speak, you would think your first thing to do would be, well, let's figure out what the translation really said, especially when it's being disputed by the congressperson herself. That would be Ilhan Omar. But as you said, it's very easy just to do the he said, she said thing. Or even as I was talking to my producer, Patrick, before the interview, he was even saying it's almost like Republicans just come up with the call for Ilhan Omar to resign of the week. And it's easy to just chalk that up as saying, well, it's just another Republican call for her to resign, when really it's quite a bit more serious, when you're literally just misinterpreting what she said and running with wildfire and making calls to resign. I mean, I guess that shouldn't be too surprising. That was going to be my question. Are you surprised at all by the reaction? But I guess if you have a lot of national news outlets that really aren't doing their homework on that, it shouldn't be surprising that it's still, this false information is being still bandied about out there. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is just the media age that we live in. It's been catalyzed by social media, and then you have someone like Donald Trump who just threw, I'm mixing some metaphors here, but he just kind of threw accelerant on the fire, and it doesn't seem to matter anymore. And I don't know, there was a time when politicians, I think we think of politicians as cheating the truth or exaggerating, but I think that, there was a time when, in recent memory, when I think a politician caught saying something that was like factually untrue, provably untrue, there'd be not just a little bit, but significant embarrassment around that, and it would be reported, and the person might they say they misspoke, and there'd be a whole cycle of that, and then there seems to be this new rule book where you can kind of say whatever you want, and I'm not going to. Unfortunately, it's not a both sides thing, but it's also not just Republicans doing this. But there's something that's changed in our political culture where it does seem to be much more okay to say things that are untrue, and then when it's proven that what you said is untrue, you don't have to do anything about it. I think that's another dispiriting aspect to this. The Florida governor DeSantis said that he actually said that she should be deported over this, which you can't deport somebody in America. This is ridiculous to begin with, but it was all predicated on this bad translation, and everybody just moves on, and so it is a little depressing, frankly. What kind of even makes it more depressing too is I went down the rabbit hole of looking at some of the social media reaction when you guys originally put out your accurate translation of what she said, and it was just interesting reading some of the reply saying, well, this person worked for the government and we shouldn't trust them. How do we know these interpreters are accurate? It just kind of can make your head spin when even you get those accurate translations and people are still going to bang their head against the wall and say, it's false. That's not what she said. She's still anti-American and so on and so on.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, you can read more about that story over at MinnesotaReformer.com, MinnesotaReformer.com, and you can see what Ilhan Omar really said during that speech at the Hyatt just a little over a week ago. Do you want to move on to some other stories and columns that you guys are covering over at the Minnesota Reformer? And let's talk about this column that Aaron Brown wrote. We've had him on the show before. He's based out of the Iron Range and knows a lot about the situation in terms of labor and also politics on the range. And he wrote a column talking about U.S. Steel possibly being bought by another company because back in December, Japanese steel giant Nippon Steel agreed to buy U.S. Steel for about $15 billion, more than the company was expected to fetch here in the U.S. U.S. Steel employs more than 1,800 Minnesotans that are mostly based in the Iron Range, in the Mesabi area, Mesabi Range. And the Nippon Steel deal outraged United Steel Workers Union, which preferred that U.S. Steel would be bought by Cleveland Cliffs instead. So this is an interesting column that Aaron wrote because he does talk about some of the unintended consequences of what could happen if they do end up reversing course and being bought by Cleveland Cliffs. But let's start off with this. Why do the workers prefer working with Cleveland Stiffs rather than this other Japanese company? Because it seems like almost universal opposition from across the political spectrum on this too, of having a preference for this company being bought by Cleveland Cliffs rather than Nippon Steel in Japan.
Yeah, the steel workers, their contract, they're looking for their contract to be honored. And so that's their issue with this potential merger, and they see Cleveland Cliffs as a much more labor friendly company. But as Aaron points out, I mean, this either way, whether it's Nippon Steel buying U.S. Steel or Cleveland Cliffs buying U.S. Steel, you're getting consolidation. And what do we usually see with consolidation? Generally, or at least very often, there's going to be some layoffs. I mean, they're going to look for the cost savings. That's sort of the whole point of many of these mergers, and so what his sort of point that he gets to is that the steel workers maybe ought to be thinking a little more long term about the health of the industry overall, and whether or not they really want to get into bed, as it were, with the Cleveland Cliffs. Even though in the end, if Cliffs ends up winning this battle and becomes this huge, bigger, I should say, steel company, that could lead to layoffs that would be certainly felt on the Iron Range.
Yeah, as they'll say, they'll call it something fancy like, well, we're just doing vertical integration at our company, when really what they're doing is just laying a bunch of people off. But it is interesting that as he writes about how this is a very close relationship between the union and Cleveland Cliffs, and something you don't often see in terms of relationships between management and labor, where he basically makes the argument that they've essentially merged, which has been kind of common on the Iron Range, as Aaron and I have talked about in the past. So that just kind of adds another aspect to this. But I'm with you that at least in this column that Aaron wrote, there probably are going to be layoffs, because that almost always happens when we have these big conglomerates end up merging, and that'll probably happen within the next few. Usually that doesn't happen right away when you have those types of mergers, but they are probably going to happen, and there are going to be unintended consequences with this merger.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think Aaron is saying the steelworkers might pause for a second as they consider who they want to be their corporate overlord here.
Well, read more about Aaron's column over MinnesotaReformer.com, MinnesotaReformer.com, because that is that interesting dynamic of how labor has changed on the Iron Range that Aaron writes about. And again, find that column over at the Reformer. And finally, wanted to talk to you about what's happening in the DFL-controlled state Senate, because they are going to need to pick a new Senate Majority Leader today. That's because current Majority Leader Carrie Dijic announced that she would be stepping down from her leadership role. She had been battling cancer during the 2023 session, and she announced last week that, unfortunately, her cancer has returned and that she would be stepping down to focus her attention on her health. It sounds like she will be staying in the Senate, but just won't have that leadership position anymore. So I believe even as we speak and are recording this at about 2:50 in the afternoon, the DFL is going through and figuring out who they might elect as their next majority leader. Any thoughts on some of the faces that we might be seeing contend for this position, or which direction the DFL might go in terms of a progressive or maybe a more moderate or even a consensus candidate? What are your thoughts on this race to see who could be the DFL Senate Majority Leader?
Yeah, so it's the intra-caucus politics. Very hard to know exactly what's going to happen because you've got these personalities that play, and you've got to gather 18 votes. So it's different than the kind of elections that we're used to covering. I think they have a very tough job in picking someone to replace Dietzick. And certainly we wish her well as she continues to battle cancer. She was a really understated, underrated leader of last session. She's pretty press shy, so it's not like she's out there in the public, but she really had a good understanding for each individual member, what they needed, and how, and also how to say no to a member when what they wanted was going to be detrimental to the whole caucus. If you think about all of those legislative achievements from last session, you needed somebody who was going to put the caucus before her own interests or ambitions, and she did that. And so it's just a strange position, the caucus leadership, because you need somebody who's in some ways selfless, because they really have to be thinking about the members more than themselves, but at the same time they're ambitious. So it's kind of a strange mix. And Carrie Dietzick really filled that role ably, and she was only leader for a short time. And so now Aaron Murphy, who lost the nomination for governor in 2018 and came to the state senate. Was the House majority leader, so she certainly has experience with legislative leadership. Nick Friends is a Mankato senator. I think would be described as somewhat centrist. Scott Dibble, Minneapolis, his specialty is transportation issues. Friends does energy issues, and then Bobby Joe Champion from Minneapolis, who's current Senate president. So maybe he's a kind of consensus candidate. Last time they had this leadership battle, I think there was a member or two who said that if the caucus went in the direction they didn't like, they would leave the caucus. So the problem with the one vote majority is it's very narrow and there's no room for error. So we'll be interested to see who they select as their leader. Luckily for them, they don't have an election this year. That only the House is up, so they don't have to worry about that. But the next caucus leader is certainly going to be charged with recruiting candidates and fundraising and creating a strategy to keep that majority, that razor thin majority in 2026, which is could be President Biden's second off year election, which generally has been bad for incumbents. So it'll be very interesting to see who they select today.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you consider the fact that this is going to be the fourth time within the past few years the DFLers are going to have to pick a new Senate majority leader, as they've had a couple in the past that are no longer holding the position. They've gone from Tom Bach to Susan Kent to now Carrie Dijic, and now her successor that they are selecting today. And who knows, by the time our interviews play back, we might even know who that successor will be. So we'll follow along. We have been speaking with Patrick Houlihan, who is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. Make sure you go to minnesotareformer.com for the latest in Minnesota news and politics. Patrick, as always, thanks for the time today.
Always a pleasure.
Baby, it's hard inside.
All right, let's take a break and turn things back over to Matt McNeil on AM 950.
Never believed in us, taking a lonely night, catching a moment right.
Hi, I'm Mary T, inviting you to experience our integrative Mary T Health and Wellness Center, offering physical, occupational, speech, and lymphedema therapies. Experience our guided imagery, meditation, Tibetan medicine, dry needling, massage services, including cupping and oncology massage. Sign up for our free wellness screenings and learn more at marytwellness.com. All major health insurance providers are accepted. Come for therapy, experience wellness.
The new year and the new eagle have arrived at the National Eagle Center. When you visit this winter season, you can meet and learn about the newest bald eagle ambassador, Perseus. Plus, the center is your headquarters for winter eagle information and experiences, including weekly winter bald eagle counts, golden eagle information, unforgettable expert-led field trips, and small group private eagle habitat tours for your friends and family. Make eagles part of your 2024 and plan your visit or experience today online at nationaleaglecenter.org.
It takes teamwork to stay safe on Minnesota roads during the winter. You can help. When you see snowplows at work, slow down. Slower speeds can save lives. Don't crowd the plow and leave plenty of space between yourself and other vehicles. Keep your headlights on to see and be seen. Avoid distractions and always stay alert behind the wheel. This message brought to you by the Minnesota Department of Transportation, the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Now at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we have new Fireplace Extraordinaire hybrid fireplace inserts.
These wood-burning inserts are made in 2 sizes and 9 different designs to fit your existing fireplace and enhance your home's architecture. They not only feature a big, beautiful fire viewing area, they heat so efficiently that they qualify for a 30% tax credit, which can save you $2,000.
Advancing the art of fire is the motto of Fireplace Extraordinaire. For 30 years, the EPA has certified all wood-burning heaters for clean burning. But these new hybrids add a catalytic combustor. They burn even longer, more efficiently, and cleaner. To design these inserts to work well and look good is Fireplace Extraordinaire's Art of Fire.
At woodlandstoves.com, you can see the many options. Work with the chimney and installation experts. They not only install, but will guide you if you want to install yourself. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood, gas, and electric units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy with a low of 38, then Wednesday, cloudy and breezy with a high of 54. The renowned musical satirist Randy Rainbow is bringing his Randy Rainbow for President tour to the State Theater in Minneapolis on Friday, February 23rd. Get your tickets at randyrainbow.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. We've got a huge story. Oh, this is huge. And I got to tell you, I am knee deep in news stories today. But this one is huge because this is going to be a huge economic impact to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Once again, showing that we are a beacon, a city that people are trying to come to. Joining us right now is Tom Gump. He's with Rotary International. He's the aide to the Rotary president. I think that's a gig you're picking up this year, right?
Right. Starts July 1st.
Starts July 1st. He's kind enough to join us because you have Rotary's got a huge announcement for 2029 for Minneapolis, right?
We do. Absolutely.
All right. You have the floor. What's going to happen?
Well, every year we have an international convention where the whole Rotary world gathers in a city. And we haven't hosted that in Minneapolis since 1974. So after a 7-year process of trying, the board of directors last month voted to have its 2029 convention right here in Minneapolis.
Wow. Now, this would be the 3rd time they've actually been here. And because Rotary has got a long history.
Yes, 118 years.
That's 1928. That was the year before my dad was born. 1928 was the year here your first time. You brought in 1928. They brought 10,000 people into this town.
Absolutely.
It must have been chaos.
Yeah. We have the infrastructure now to handle much more than that. Hopefully we'll have double that.
I'm going to guess the Marriott wasn't there at that point. I'm just going to the Hilton wasn't there probably. I guess we were more bed and breakfast, boarding houses and barns, that sort of thing. 1974, you guys were here as well, and once again, 10,000 people coming into town.
Correct.
Wow. We should list off. This is to give people an idea what a really cool this is for Minneapolis. This year you're where?
Singapore.
And then next year you're in?
Then we're in Calgary.
Taiwan, Honolulu, right?
Correct.
Then the Philippines in 2028.
Yes.
So we're competing internationally with the largest destinations, largest venues, largest places that are bringing in large crowds as well. And Minneapolis is back at it again for 2029.
Absolutely. I understand there were about a dozen cities who turned in applications, and then there was a site visit between the two leading cities, and then Minneapolis was chosen.
Fantastic. Let's back up a little bit if we can here. Why don't you just give everyone out there just that kind of that overview? What is Rotary?
Well, Rotary is a membership organization that does service, and I personally believe they do the best service in the world. We do everything from child literacy to wash projects, water, sanitation, hygiene. Locally, we do food shelves and everything like that, but we do projects around the world. Our president-elect and I were just in Pakistan watching them build smart villages because there were floods that dislodged people from their homes. And of course, our number one external priority is eradicating polio, which will be the second disease ever eradicated, smallpox being the first disease. And we raise with the help of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations and our other partners, World Health Organization, Gavi Alliance to get rid of Gavi Vaccine Alliance. But we raised $150 million. We raised 50, and then it's matched 2-for-1 for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
These are not light projects. I mean, when they're not, and this is, there are a lot of great service organizations that are out there, but you are tackling real worldwide tough issues, which dealing with the day-to-day life of people. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, it is. We go in and we change communities' lives. I've been to Honduras where we've done fresh water projects where they didn't have fresh water, and the infant mortality rate's 85%, and then it gets down to 25% after we give them new water. And I can give all kinds of examples of projects we've done around the world. It's amazing.
The Rotary is still a beacon out there. And this is what's interesting is, I mean, I'm 55. I've grown up and I remember going into a town and you'd see 20 signs of the service organizations. And slowly, sadly, unfortunately, a lot of them have whittled away, fallen by the wayside and not there. But Rotary has stayed strong. What is Rotary's secret on that? How have they been able to, through the changing times, through the changing ideas and mentalities, still been able to be there and be the force that Rotary is?
Well, a few years ago at our Council on Legislation, which is basically our parliament, we decided, this was back in 2016, that we would allow clubs to meet different ways. So we go out into the community, we reach out to those potential people of action, and we let them meet the way they want to. The backbone of Rotary is our legacy clubs. I belong to a club that meets at the Edina Country Club Tuesday morning, 7:30. My wife meets at a traditional legacy club at noon on Thursdays. But these new clubs, they meet online, they meet on nights, they meet on weekends. They don't meet 4 times a month. Sometimes they meet twice a month. So that flexibility has allowed us to keep on growing.
Well, that is a lot of it right there. I mean, working a schedule to where that people want to be involved. People do want to be involved, but sometimes every Tuesday at certain times, it's just too difficult.
Absolutely. I mean, we have people who are school teachers and they, want to meet at school. Last year, we formed a club in Monticello. We have a regular Monticello club, but 8 school teachers, they formed a satellite club. They meet the same day, but they meet at night at the hotel instead of meeting at noon because they can't meet during the week at noon.
You brung up one, and I definitely want to talk about this because polio, it is something that, at least here in the United States, we've been very successful with. Talk a little bit about that fight. Where is it standing? And has it mostly been curtailed, or are there still places on the planet where it's still somewhat out of control?
Yes, both. That's a complex question, but
Okay.
99.9% it's been eradicated. But we have two endemic countries, and that being Afghanistan and Pakistan. And that's the reason we went to Pakistan. And, but I am so encouraged that we're going to eradicate this disease. We met the frontline workers, most of whom are women. And, 47 individuals have been killed they've been martyred trying to deliver those drops. And it's tough business, but we're going to get it done. We've only had 12 wild cases last year. And hopefully this will be the year that we don't have any. And if we do that for 3 years in a row, then we can have the disease certified, the world certified as polio free. And hopefully that'll be done, by the time we celebrate Manila, because that'll be 2028 in the Philippines. And that's where this all started. And earlier in the year, the president-elect and I have met with President Marcos in the Philippines, and he pledged his support to get this done. We also, when we were in last week, in Islamabad and Karachi, we actually met with the prime minister, and he also is pledging everything he can to make sure that we get this done. So meeting those people, where they take the samples and store the samples, I have renewed enthusiasm that we are going to be successful in this fight.
God willing. I mean, there are some things that go beyond politics, and the idea is, you go there and you think to yourself, okay, no one's really gonna have a problem. We're trying to get rid of polio, but we don't understand the complexities that just trying to sit there to say we're here to save as many kids as we possibly can and prevent this disease from spreading and wiping it out if we possibly can do it. That still is something which is a bridge too far for some places and some people.
Yeah, and Matt, I can tell you, when you give those 2 drops of vaccine to a child and you look in the parents' eyes, and they know that child will never be crippled, that child will live, and that child will play, and that child will run, just like we do, our children do over here. It gives you a feeling like nothing else.
Obviously, you brought up a lot of things. It's a multi-texture thing. You're talking about large-scale issues here. Talk a little bit about some of the local things that, kind of Rotary gets involved with on a local scale.
Absolutely. There's such thing as club grants, and there's district grants, and then there's global grants. And our club grants, we do all kinds of things, from giving money to food shelves. That was a big deal during 2020. That was a big focus. We do a lot of building libraries. We do a lot of just helping homeless people find homes. We started a veterans club here a couple of years ago, the first one in the world. It's a club to serve veterans. Most of their members are veterans, but there's non-veterans members. Their administrator is a pastor whose son-in-law is active duty. So it's about serving the veterans. After they started, in the first 2 weeks, they got a $20,000 grant from the district, and they redid a first floor of Havens for Heroes, where they made a room where they can play poker and they can do foosball, so they could have that camaraderie, because they were worried about suicide, and they thought that was a big help. And here in this district in Minnesota, we formed the first club in the world to end human trafficking, and now there's a dozen of those around the world. So we work on all kinds of issues, local, regional, and international.
As a veteran myself, it's solid work. Absolutely, because that is something that's a constant fight out there, and it's this unified team. It's finding all the cracks, and that's the key. Is there's a lot of great people out there that do a lot of things, but there's so many cracks that need to get filled. Rotary is there. Not only, you're doing the large scale things. My goodness, you're doing a lot of very impressive large scale things, but then you get on that local level, you can find where the cracks are, and you can get in there and fix it, and that's just exceptional. So,
well, thank you so much, and thank you for letting us have an opportunity to tell the world about what we do.
So I want to if someone wants to become a member, wants to find out how to become a member of Rotary. Obviously it's operating everywhere.
Yes.
So there's going to be a local chapter. It's not going to be too difficult for you to find any information. Are there any parameters, anything that fall into line that you need to become a member, or is it pretty much anyone?
The reality is, if people have the hands for service and they have the hearts for service, they can join Rotary. And we are in over 200 different countries. We have lots of chapters in your listening area, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. And all they have to do is they can Google it and just reach out. They could reach out to me. I'll be happy to join it, because we need more members. I mentioned we're a membership organization, but the reason we want more members is not just to have members, but to do that service, to go out and serve the world and help those people who need it. And we want to do it with people who are like-minded. But there are clubs of all different sorts, and we have fellowships and we have action groups. So no matter what talent and what way you want to serve, we can do it. And if there's not a club that reaches that, we'll help you form a new club, and you can do it the way you want to do, like we did with our Veterans Club and we did with our Human Trafficking Club.
Perfect. Congratulations. 2029.
Yes,
You were
sir.
here in 1928, 101 years later.
I know.
That's
Isn't that
crazy.
amazing?
That is crazy.
That is crazy.
Coming 2029 into Minneapolis, Rotary International, their big event. That's going to be 10,000 people, at least 10,000 people probably.
You know, we budgeted for 17, but our aspirational goal is even higher than that.
So, and you can be part of that too by joining Rotary. Just find Rotary. Just go to your website, go to your search bar, type in Rotary, type in your town in Rotary. I guarantee you'll probably find something there. Tom, first of all, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done on all this stuff, man. Dude, very impressive. Tom Gump, Rotary International, congratulations on this. And we'll be talking, I imagine, a few times over the next few years as we get ready for 2029.
We'd welcome the opportunity. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Tom Gump, Rotary International. Go find it and find out how you can be part of that as well. Let's take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950. Do you want a fast way to save money? It's easy with Rudy Luther Toyota. Start with the Luther Advantage Card. With every new and used vehicle purchase, you'll get 3 years of 10 cents off per gallon of gas at holiday station stores, as well as discounted Works car washes for only $6. Plus, the Luther Advantage Card gets you other benefits too. See their website for details. And Rudy Luther Toyota wants to buy your used vehicle. They'll ensure a great offer. Go to RudyLutherToyota.com for the details. Saving money and getting you a fair price is easy with Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Winter is here, and there's a good chance your home isn't being heated efficiently. And it's likely because of air sealing and insulation problems. Inadequate attic insulation is the leading contributor to high energy bills, cold rooms, and ice dams. Great news, the energy-efficient pros at Snap Construction can fix it all. Stop the heat from leaking out and save. Call 612-333-SNAP or visit snapconstruction.com for your free infrared energy inspection. Install with Snap Construction and qualify for over $750 in rebates and incentives. State and city programs are now offering 0% financing for qualifying insulation upgrades. So call Snap Construction for your free insulation energy consultation and start saving on your energy bills. Call 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed insulation and exterior contractor in the metro area.
Moe's Tax Service in St. Paul is seeking experienced tax preparers and people who'd like to learn to be on their support team. Full and part-time positions are available throughout the tax season. Moe's is open Monday through Saturday and evenings. To find out more, call 612-721-2026 or send an email to info@moestax.com. That's info@mohstax.com. In business since 1971, Moe's Tax Service. Visit mohstax.com.
Minnesota's program for news, information, and perspective at the intersection of mobility and technology. It's the Tech Mobility Show. I'm Ken Chester, your host. I cover evolving mobility and technology trends and topics in a way that's easy to understand. Things are changing fast, and it's easy to get lost in the flow. By tuning into the Tech Mobility Show, you can stay informed about the latest happenings with electric vehicles, personal privacy issues, climate change, and more. That's the Tech Mobility Show every Saturday from 9 to 10 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
I'm having a really hard time lately, and I'm worried no one will understand what I'm going through.
I feel so alone. I wish there was somebody I could talk to.
If you're looking for support, Mental Health Minnesota is here for you, with connections to others who have also struggled with their mental health and can provide support and resources. Services are anonymous, confidential, free of charge, and open 7 days a week. Connect today at mentalhealthmn.org or call 855-HERE-4MN today. Sponsored by Mental Health Minnesota, the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this station.
So, as we are wrapping up this show, the Mayorkas impeachment vote has not started. It should be starting any second now. There have been actually, and one of the things I'm looking at the New York Times, one of the things the Times has said is that there have actually been some Democrats and Republicans who have missed votes earlier today. One question is, and the attendance will likely vote. Steve Scalise, the number 2 House Republican, has been out as he battles cancer. Several Democrats, Republicans missed votes earlier today. Absences on either side could affect the outcome. That's absolutely. And if I'm one of these Republicans who comes from a moderate district and I don't want this vote on my side, all of a sudden I was at the vending machine. What did I miss? Is possibly a viable excuse. I love my jujubes, man. Who doesn't love them? They're delicious. I'm sorry. Did I miss something? So they're at 0 right now. The vote count is they have not started yet, but it's going to happen here soon. It will be interesting to see. I mean, if it does pass, it's going to pass by the skin of the teeth. Some constitutional, scholars have basically looked at and pretty much rejected the arguments that the Republicans have made here in regards to the justification for getting rid of him. Just because you don't like how he's doing the job, that's not enough to get rid of him. And that seems to be the argument they're making. They don't like how he's done the job, but the reality is he's not done anything illegal with the job as much as they want to say that he has. And so, yeah. 2 other quick things here, if I may. First of all, I thought when I saw this story, okay, so we talked yesterday about the evil twin story, where the one woman hit the Amish buggy, killed 2 kids, and killed, and the other 2 kids went to the hospital. They were going to school. She was on meth and various other things, and then tried to get her twin sister to take the fall for her, that sort of thing. Remember that? So when I saw this story, I was like, oh gosh, did they screw up and somehow accidentally reprint the original story? No, it's a different town. 2 young children are hospitalized after a driver collided with an Amish buggy in Hinckley last week. The Pine County Sheriff's Office said the children aged 2 and 4 were among 6 people riding in the horse-drawn buggy when they were struck by a driver on the 27,000 block of Hinckley Road on February 1st. 2 passengers suffered life-threatening injuries, the sheriff's office said. While the sheriff's office hasn't confirmed that the 2 young children are those with life-threatening injuries, it did say they were taken to Children's Hospital in Minneapolis, while a GoFundMe campaign set up by the family mentions the children were airlifted to the ICU where their conditions are stable as of Saturday. According to the news release, the driver called 911 after the collision and stated they'd hit an object in the road. The driver of the motor vehicle was uninjured. The crash remains under investigation. Fundraiser creator Kevin Murphy, who is a neighbor of the family, said helicopter costs associated with the transport of the children is estimated to cost between $30,000 and $100,000. The mother is also injured. We are praying for the best for all those involved, he wrote. In September, a collision between the vehicle and a horse-drawn buggy in Fillmore County left 2 children dead and 2 others seriously injured. That was the story I thought this was referring to. Yeah. I'm going to post a story. The story is from bringmethenews.com. I'm going to post in the story. There's a link to the GoFundMe page. If you can help out, please do. If you can help out, please do. Finally, last thing here too. And I understand this show, the last half hour or so has been really kind of this thing about service and stuff. But I got to get into one last thing political because this is embarrassing. Now, we spent a good portion of last week talking about the false translation of Ilhan Omar's speech, which at best was a perfect storm of incompetence, which led to a faulty translation, a right-wing, I don't know if I'm calling them news outlets right. They were even saying we can't verify the translation, which led then to Tom Emmer basically taking a bad translation that was posted with caveats on a news site, and Tom Emmer basically condemning Ilhan Omar. Well, then you find out, well, no, she didn't say that. And that wasn't just off of her. The Star Tribune had an independent person validate that, no, she didn't say the negative things the right was claiming that she said. Minnesota Reformer hired 2 translators to determine that, no, she never said what the initial person said. But still, because Republicans just hate her with the fire of a million suns. they basically can't stop themselves. And, Jose Canseco, a.k.a. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she has basically introduced a resolution to basically try to throw her out of the country, censor her and throw her out of the country. Guess who is co-sponsoring the resolution? Representative Brad Finstead down. Apparently, this is what, Jose Canseco is saying. But apparently Finstead's name's on this as well. And, considering we know what this whole thing is based on is a lie, the only thing I have to say to Finstead is do you hate all black people or you just hate the East African black people? Because it sounds like it's one of the two. Native Roots Radio is up next. We are back tomorrow. Have a good one. Till tomorrow. See ya. All this week, listen to the Matt McNeil Show, Native Roots Radio, and Ghostbox Radio for your chance